All right, if I can get everyone's attention, please. Just because we've got a packed evening, first I want to thank you all for being here this evening. I'm just here to do intros and then I'm going to turn over the mic. But really first, I just want to thank you all for being here. I think it's important that the community remains engaged. The one thing I'll say, and certainly there'll be more discussions and I'm sure questions about this, is that this is a very preliminary conversation. The issue of dissolution and the village and what comes next has really been percolating for many years now. This isn't something new. This is the first time that a consultant is actually going to come, I believe, to actually advise us on the pluses and minuses. This meeting came about because the board took a vote 2 months ago, a month or so ago, so that we could have this study done. Nevertheless, I want to introduce Gideon and Ben, the two gentlemen behind me. They're from the Laberge Group. They're the consultants that even before what they're going to be discussing today, I reached out to them because they are experts as it relates to kind of municipal operations. Certainly me coming in here as a new mayor, getting experts to really opine on how we best structure the village and move forward was always something important to me. Certainly I didn't think they would be coming in this capacity, but they're here nevertheless. So without taking up any more time, I want to pass the mic over to Ben and he's going to run the meeting. The last thing that I'll say is shortly after the meeting scheduled for 8 p.m., we'll have a workshop. Our regular workshop is normally scheduled first third Tuesday at 6:30. We changed that schedule, so the workshop will take place today from 8 p.m. to 8:15. We our regularly scheduled board meeting pushed back to the new start time of 8:15. So right here. All right. So without further ado, I'll pass the mic to them.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can everyone hear me without the microphone?
No. No.
That's never happened.
Sorry.
In 27 years, I've asked this question. In 27 years, I say, "Can anyone in the back hear me?" And they always say yes. And for some reason, I can't. In 27 years, I've said I have two hand signals. This means speak up. No one's ever used that. This meant slow down. North of Westchester and Rockland County, this happened all the time. I'm from Long Island originally, so I do have the habit of enhancing the speed of my speech. So if any time I'm talking too fast, please, by all means, just raise your hand and go like this. Doesn't bother. My name is Ben Seiden, Mr. Gideon Grande, from the Laberge Group, as the mayor mentioned. Most of you haven't heard of who Laberge Group is, so I'll give you a brief introduction, just so you know our background. We are a municipal consulting firm with almost 65 years serving communities all over New York State. Engineering, architecture, planning. Our role is government operations. We work with communities to optimize how you provide services. We also oversee planning and grants and community development. And we work with our other staff members on engineering solutions, really to help operating a village as you go forward, whether it's water, sewer, roads, parks, recreation, in this case, government reorganization. So in the last decade, we have worked with we've done the most work on village dissolution and consolidation and reorganization in the state. Right now, we're currently working with the village of New Paltz and town of New Paltz on consolidation and the village of Addison on dissolution. I want to be clear that while we work with 7 to 10 villages that have dissolved, we also work with a number of villages that chose not to dissolve, not to reorganize, and that's completely fine. I am not a village killer. If you research Laberge Group, you'll see a number of villages that have dissolved that we work with. And my staff jokingly said 10 years ago, they were going to give me a new license plate. That said VLGEKLR. But that's not us. We do not do that. We do not advise you to dissolve. We do not advise you not to dissolve. Our role, our sole role in all these projects is to help you figure out, help you learn, help you understand, help you make a decision. In other words, we want to make sure that you as a board and you as the public have as much information that you can so you can make an informed decision. It's not for us to tell you what to do. Our role in this process, as we go through this presentation, is solely to bring you through a process of self-inflection to figure out what would happen if you dissolve. What that means is, where will your services be provided? How will your services be provided? And what will that cost be? At the end of this process, end of the dissolution plan, you're going to be able to read a document and see presentations and read a brochure that tells you what it actually means to you at the taxpayer level and at the service level and at the representation. To do that, we go through a process over the next 6 months, which we're going to talk about here. So, Mayor, I'm glad you introduced it as the first meeting. Whenever we work with a community that's going through a reorganization, we always ask the community that we can meet with the public up front. We do not have answers as to what it means to you yet. We do not know what it means to your services or taxes. We have not met with the steering committee yet. We've not interviewed the village department heads or the town department heads yet. But we wanted to get in front of the process so to let you know what the process is going to be. We want to make sure you know where to look for information so you all have the same answers. I'm going to go through that as well. What a brief little piece here is that shows this. In the last 10 years, or now 16 years, since 2010, 39 villages have been dissolved. Actually, prior to 2010, 39 villages were dissolved. Since 2010, only 23 have been dissolved. The most recent one is the village of Fort Johnson. They were a small family-owned business. What I mean by that, they're only about 460 people. The mayor wanted to retire. His mom was his mother-in-law was the village clerk. She wanted to retire.
Where's that?
Oh, it's in Montgomery County. His father-in-law was the trustee and head of DPW. He wanted to retire. Nobody wanted to run for office. A trustee moved out of town. No one wanted to be trustee, so he had to appoint his wife to be the trustee. So they ended up dissolving the village. They didn't provide any services, and it made sense for them. The point is that during that time, while 23 villages have chosen to dissolve, 31 have chosen not to dissolve. So this is really a very local issue. It's not the state coming in and putting the thumb down saying you must dissolve. We're not Ohio, where they require votes of villages that are under a certain threshold. This is your process. So today, we know right now there are 6 other villages already discussing the process of reorganization. And the process of reorganization is helpful because you're all born into this. Whether you moved here or born here, you did not create this government. It was here before you were here. So the question always is this at any point the right government, the right form of government? So this process of dissolution or consolidation, reorganization is a healthy discussion. Those that are against dissolution, I urge you to participate. Those that are for, I ask you to participate. But I ask you to participate with empathy, with caring for your neighbors, because this process can easily divide a community. So we ask you not to divide, but to rebuild. We ask you during this process to understand that at the end of the day, either which way you choose to go, it's still a community of neighbors helping neighbors. If there's an accident, it doesn't matter what symbols on the side of that door, as long as you're stopping and serving the public emergency services. So we want to go through a process here of discussion, inflection, and understanding of how your services will be provided. So how do we get here? Well, in 2010, former Governor Cuomo created the new reorganization, the new New York reorganization process. He allowed and provided the law citizens to initiate dissolution and government reorganization by a petition. And since that time, there have been 2 processes. One is called a board-initiated process, and one is a citizen-initiated process. And I want to start with the citizen-initiated process. You need 10% of your voters, of your registered voters, to sign a petition, and you're forcing a very, very fast, it's like a marathon at sprinting pace process to a vote. And I want to be clear, in a citizen-initiated process, you have, and we'll go through it later, but you have 10 days for the village clerk to certify the petition, that there's enough legitimate voters sign that petition. If the village clerk deems that petition valid, you will then have 30 days for the village board to meet and set a date of a referendum. By law, that's all they have to do. They do not have to give you any information or develop a plan for you to vote on. It's crazy. You will be voting in a citizen-initiated process to dissolve a village, yes or no, without having any real information as to how that impacts you. You won't know how the services are provided. You won't know how the taxes are going to be shared. You don't know what's going to happen to your personnel. You don't know what's going to happen to policing or DPW. So that by the board choosing to initiate this as a board-initiated process, they have to be commended. Whenever we hear of a petition about to be submitted, we implore, advise, and beg a board to actually do a board initiated process because the timing is different. You now control the timeline, and you now have to create by law an actual dissolution plan that you can provide to the public and teach the public and educate the public and the board as to what this means to them. So you're now able to go to the voting booth should they want to go through and actually have referendum with information as to, yes, I think it's better if Ramapo and Clarkstown take over my services, or no, I don't think it's better. And why? So I would never ask anybody to make a decision on the future of their community without having the information. So I applaud the village board for taking this process, because if you didn't, and a petition got hit, you're voting with no information. Within that law of the 2010, the governor also created the Citizen Empowerment Tax Credit. What that means is you're eligible as a community, and if you chose to reorganize and dissolve, the towns around Poland and Clarkstown together will get up to, in this case, $1 million every year in perpetuity, of which 70% minimum has to be used to lower the taxes of everybody in the towns. So I want to repeat, the Citizen Empowerment Tax Credit. This is the carrot. You all heard of the carrot that government dangles in front of you to make decisions. You know, or you have kids at home, you offer them candy after they do their chores, or Mike's son wanted money to do his chores. That's the carrot. If you chose to dissolve town around Poland, town of Clarkstown, the Citizen Empowerment Tax Credit is equal to 15% of your joint tax levy, capped at $1 million a year forever. It's called in perpetuity. It has to get redone in the budget every year, like your school runs and like your other aim, but $1 million a year in perpetuity. The town of Orangetown gets $1 million on or about September 15th every year because South Nyack chose to dissolve a few years back. That's part of the law. So that's part of our process. And as we go through this, you'll learn about that and hear about that. And Gideon will talk more about the tax impacts as we go through. So what is a dissolution plan? So in that law, in Article 17A, which is the reorganization law, we have to come up with a dissolution plan. That dissolution plan has to provide information of the impact of your governance and representation. Obviously, the village dissolves. We will no longer have a village board. We have 2 towns and 2 town boards overseeing all the services. It's unique. You guys know this. I know you know this, but you're in 2 towns. So everything we do for in a dissolution plan will get looked at in 2 ways. How will the town of Ramapo provide those services in their area? And how will the town of Clarkstown provide services in their area? And by the way, it may not be the same. One town may decide to do things differently. We'll find that out during this process. But in your dissolution plan, we have to talk about the impact of governance. We have to talk about the future conditions of services. How will the services be provided? What services will be provided? We have to talk about the cost, the impact on property taxes, that shift. Your budget and the services are now going to be shared amongst both towns. So what does it mean to their taxpayers who have no say in this, by the way? I want to repeat that because it's an important piece of information happening. In a village dissolution, only village residents vote. Town residents have no say in this. They don't get to vote. And if their taxes rise 5, 10, 15, 20%, whatever it is in the end, they had no say in that. It's your decision only. Is that fair? Not for me to say. It's the law. In a consolidation, when you're merging together like a new poll, both the village and town get to choose. In a village dissolution, the towns have no formal say. They don't get to adopt your plan. Only you can write the plan. However, the plan is not binding, except for the fact that you're dissolving. You can create a plan, we won't, we'll resign, that's pie in the sky, that says everything's going to be hunky-dory and glorious. And the town may not be adhering to that. So there's no way we're going to write a plan and which is fake or is not built on a foundation of trust with the towns, because at the end of the day, if you chose to dissolve, they're the ones that have to provide the services. We want their input on how those services are going to be provided. It's the only fair, right way to do government. It's the only way we can give you the opportunity to make a decision based upon a rooted basis of knowledge, fairness, and accuracy. In your plan, we have to look at your accounting. You also have to look at your assets and your liabilities. We have to come up with a disposition plan. All your assets, how are we going to dispose of them? What's going to happen to your buildings, your equipment, your land, What's going to happen to your liabilities? Well, we'll go through that also, but your liabilities, by the way, are your liabilities forever. Your debt is your debt. Your debt doesn't go away. Your debt doesn't go to the town. The rest of the 150,000 people around aren't paying your debt. Your debt will still be with you. If you dissolve, you're still paying those taxes, those debts. It'll be a legacy district, which we'll go over. We want to talk about in the plan your laws. What happens to your village laws? What happens to your zoning? What happens to your codes? Well, in short, they're on the books for 2 years, at which time they have to be repealed or morphed into the towns. We have to look at your employees. What's going to happen to your employees? We want to build a plan for the transition of your employees to the new governments. Remember, your government, your municipality, the village, is a village governance structure. So if the village governance structure goes away, the services still have to be provided. And the people that have provided them, there should be a plan for how to transition them into the town. Doesn't have to be, but how they can continue to provide those services. We have to come up with the proposed date of dissolution. And we always recommend the December 31st any given year. We'll go about why. And then we have to come up with what's the cost of dissolution going to be. And all that goes into your plan. When you have that plan, it's going to be on your website. It'll be available. There'll be brochures of pros and cons. And you'll have information that you can make a decision. The board will have that opportunity. And then if they choose to put it to referendum, the public will have that information. But again, the bottom line is, post dissolution, anything in that plan, except for the fact that you're dissolving, is not binding. Because in New York State, you cannot bind a future government. So it's your vision, which is why we asked the village to create a steering committee to involve the town supervisors and the town board members to join, to share with us how they are envisioning this. If you were to dissolve, they have to take you. There is no, I don't want to. There's no opportunity for the town to say, nah, we don't want you. That's not legal. You already are town residents. If you choose to remove your governance structure, they have to take you. But how they provide those services is up to them, not up to your board. How they create districts to tax you is up to them, not your board. What they do in police services is up to them, not your board. So we invite them to participate, but it's not binding. So the more they participate, the more strength in the plan you'll see. So what is critical to know about the plan development? Number one, I keep saying this, but village dissolution is a town issue, not a village issue. I say that because I want to go back to my previous statements. It's not binding, so we invite them to participate because we have to know how they're planning on providing your services. It's critical for you to make that decision, whether to vote yes or no, knowing how they're going to do that. That's why we say it's so important to collaborate with town. We know their role is to normally say, this is a village issue. We're ready and able to assist going forward, but it's a village issue. But in reality, it's a town issue. We need their assistance understanding about your process. We need them to work with you on transition planning. We want to work with them on intermunicipal agreements that should you choose to dissolve as a plan for orderly transition so your services are still being provided on day one. We want to talk about obligations. How are they going to fund the legacy district? What are they going to do? How are they going to operate the retiree health plans? What are they going to do with your buildings? Where are they going to serve you out of? It's all part of this why it's a town issue. Their role in post-dissolutions, they're now in charge. In the planning, they're advising and giving us an idea how they're going to govern. But post-dissolution, there's no village government anymore. They're the ones you have to go to. And because of that, we need their assistance in developing a realistic plan. I mentioned the board initiated process. The decision the board initiates the process. They can stop it whenever they want. But it's not always that simple. So in the board initiated process, you begin with the initial, we want to initiate a study. We want to apply to the Department of State. Our friends that are here visiting us from Albany, Carl and April, you can raise your hand if we know who you are. They're helping fund this study. They're also been working with me personally about 17 years. Carl and I have been going back many, many years working with community reorganization all over the state. So they're our partners. They're providing insight from the state level. They can also provide precedent and historical documentation, help make the decisions go forward. The Board of Trustees must, before going forward to a public hearing, the Board of Trustees, when the plan is completed, when they have the opportunity to review it, provide insight, input, then And only then you have to, the board would have to endorse the plan, not accept, not adopt. Bad word, endorse the plan, meaning it makes sense to go to public hearing. Then they call a public hearing or an official public hearing, but they run it, not me. This is only information. They run a public hearing. You all tell them what you think about the planning process, what you think about the plan, yay, nay, well, however you feel. Yeah, 3 minutes, each person do that. At that time, after the public hearing, they then have to review comments. They have a choice to amend the plan or then to go forward. If they amend it, it can go back to a public hearing, or they can keep it the way it is. That becomes a final dissolution. At that time, they then have a choice to put it to vote or to stop the process. If they put it to vote, then there'll be a referendum. So unlike a citizen-initiated process that the referendum is guaranteed, this is all dependent upon the village board. Does the plan make sense? Is it good for our residents? That's up to them. Or is it good enough for our residents to go to the vote? Again, that's up to the board, not up to me, not up to Gideon. That's up to the board at that point. If they choose to send it to a referendum, there'll be no less than 60, no more than 90 days of their approval. There'll be one question on the ballot, one single question. Shall the village of Spring Valley, dissolve? Yes or no? People always ask me, is there a threshold? How many people have to vote for it or against it? Like any elections, one more. One more person that votes makes it happen. So everybody voting is very, very important. This is probably the most critical. If they vote to put it to a referendum, that referendum is probably historically the most critical election in the history of any village. So keep that in mind if they vote, if they move that to vote. So people like pictures instead of me talking. That's a flow chart. By the way, we have a website. It's called villageofspringvalleydissolution.com. It'll be later in here, but this presentation will be online tomorrow, so you don't have to take copious notes. You don't have to take snapshots of the screen. It'll all be available for public consumption. There's a website. On the website is a section called FAQ, frequently asked questions. We've begun answering these normal questions. There's also a location that you can submit questions.
Say the site again.
Village of Spring Valley Dissolution. Try to make that one easier for you guys. Normally we do labergegroup.com/name a municipality. This time we got a little more sophisticated. We bought a URL and automatically forwarded to you. So it's Village of Spring Valley Dissolution.com.
Okay.
So in the process again, we collect data, we do stakeholder input, we study the impact of dissolution, we develop the draft plan, the village board endorses the plan to go to public hearing, hold the public hearing, then you decide to stop or go. Go means you go to vote. Then you have the referendum. Yeah. It all depends on when the village decides to do it. So if the village decides to run it through the county, then it will be the county that has to know the November election by it's 3 months. So it's a little flaw in the law. This is what I spoke about briefly in New York. A flaw in the law is county board of elections needs to know if it goes on theirs within 3 months. But according to New York State law, Article 17A, it's 90 days. 90 days is not necessarily 3 months when it comes to the number of days for a board of elections. So that's something that we want to clean up in the state law, make them consistent with each other. Just an aside. But the way it works is the village will run a village election the way they normally run village elections. If it comes to the time that a county can do it, that's up to the county. If it's the November election, it has to be told them 90 days, 3 months in advance. It will not be this November. You're not going to have a dissolution plan ready in 3 weeks. There will be many, many, many public notices. Before a referendum, by state law, it has to be published in your local newspaper record for 4 weeks. And both the notice of the public referendum plus the synopsis of the plan has to be noticed. So you're way away from that. When we work with dissolution planning and reorganization, we have a little bit of a DNA, if you may, how we approach it. We are really focused on the employees and the continuity of services and the public. We want to make sure that we approach everything we do with empathy. You know, it's very difficult to think about it. We're asking information of the village staff how they do their job, knowing that they may not potentially have a job. So we approach this with empathy and understanding. There's a history or feeling of disturbance, not knowing what's going to happen to yourselves and your families. We talk to the village board of trustees. They don't know what's going to happen to the government structure. So this is all done in the area of, under the premise of understanding of how it impacts you. Gideon has over 25 years of government experience protecting the employees, providing the services, and making sure taxes are as low as possible while doing all that together, that balance. All that goes into how we work through this. We also want to make sure that citizens are informed that it's truly a transparent process. And we do understand that one of the major issues that communities have is their sense of identity. So that also goes back to your zoning and local codes. In doing this, we have to navigate what we call the bumps, bruises, and pitfalls of dissolution. And we learn from them. We learn about documentation. There was one community that we worked with that chose to dissolve, that transferred their village hall to the town, using the town hall, only to understand later on they never actually owned the village hall. And village hall was held in a trust. So they had to go to probate court to prove that they actually owned it, because the trustees of the trust was the village board, who didn't know they were the trustee. So we want to go through your process of really documenting every part of this so you can make that decision. At the end of the day, we want to make sure this is a community-focused plan, that you're all involved, that the press can hear it, you can see it, and you can understand how it impacts you. There's collaboration and consensus building amongst the departments and the governments to figure out, again, how they provide that service. In the day, though, we understand that, we've done this about 24 times. One size does not fit all for every community. Your services that are being provided have to be reviewed at separately. How they're going to be done here in your community. And what's going to happen to your police service? Remember, you have almost 60 officers. Around alone has about 110 officers. How you police is completely different here in the village of Spring Valley as the rest of the town. That has to be understood and conveyed in the plan. We have to understand how will the town around will provide those police services. In other words, would they provide, we don't have an answer, but will they provide it the same way they provide everybody else? Basically give you 1 or 2 patrol posts or sectors? Well, that's not really going to work for your public safety. Your issues here are completely different. But are they alternately going to take all your officers, and all your staff, and all your budget, and make everyone else in the town pay for that? We don't know. That's part of the process to figure out how it's going to be the impact of police officers. What's going to be the impact of public safety? We had a question already today about how will the transportation work? We don't know. How will the policing around our village, around our school district happen? We don't know. These are all things we have to figure out as we develop this plan. We have to look at your employees and your contracts and your collective bargaining agreements. I know it's a tough word to say. I know it's tough here in the village. But we have to look at your union agreements, and we have to more harmonize, if you may, your staff and your benefits and your costs with those of the 2 towns, which again, why we want them here. We want to incorporate your public input from the FAQs into the decision-making process. Now, I understand that there's a lot of people that go online for information. There's social media, there's Instagram, there's Facebook, there are keyboard warriors, pro and against. I urge everyone, if you're looking for actual information about what we're doing, always to go to our website. Don't go to our social media. Don't go to a Facebook page. That's only going to, it's going to be fake news. I hate to use that word, but it's fake news. On our website, there's a sign up. You can put your email in there, and every weekly or bi-weekly, whenever we update the website, whenever we update questions, anybody that submitted their email will be blasted out to them the new information. We do that so you all have the same information. So one side of the village is not spinning it to the other side and vice versa. So there aren't swirlies. So if you haven't, tonight, go home. It's not very exciting. I know. SpringValleyDissolution.com, go to the public input your email. We don't sell the information. We get rid of it when we're done. But we want to make sure you all have that information. So when we update questions, we'll tell you which question got updated. We'll tell you what meeting information is available. You have all that to review at your homes. We want to make sure that in your process, we also look at your hamlet identity and finally your zoning. So let's be clear, there are a couple of things that can happen in a dissolution on land use and zoning. This one won't happen, but a town can say, we're not going to do it. If you have a town without zoning and you have zoning, they can say, we're not doing zoning anymore, you're done. But they have zoning. So there's 2 things that towns can do. They can rezone you the way they want to, or they can incorporate your zoning into theirs. as a hybrid approach. So your zoning is still the same. We don't know what they're gonna do yet. The process is we're gonna vet out as we go through. What's our process? Our process begins with the steering committee. We requested that we have the mayor, a trustee, so a deputy mayor. We requested a town supervisor and a town board member from each town, and one member of the public to join together and be the steering committee. So Yossi was the other one we asked as the public to help us guide the process and be that barometer to make sure that what we're learning is happening. We asked each town participate. Yes, ma'am.
So you've already established this
We've
here?
requested. Ben side,
You requested to.
the mayor, no,
Oh,
the
to
mayor, that we create a steering committee. That way it's not my plan. I have to make sure that we have town input on both sides.
So we should talk to our mayor about ensuring that there's diversity on the community side.
Well, it's been one member of the public. But you
Just one, but I
Yes.
heard you say two from the surrounding.
no, we have one town supervisor
Okay,
from Roundball, one town supervisor from Clarkstown, one town board member from Roundball, one town board member from Clarkstown, the mayor, deputy mayor, and one member is not elected. And that way you have representation of each of the towns that are actually making decisions on how they're going to govern.
And you've indicated this gentleman here was requested to be on the steering committee as well?
Who's the mayor?
No, this gentleman here. was appointed.
Yeah.
that was it.
We got,
Well, I guess anything we have questions about that, we should talk to Mayor Shenley.
yes.
Good.
Or put them on your, or put them into the email to me, and we'll answer them, so everyone has the same answer.
So the community is so diverse. And Yossi's life might be much different than my life here in the building.
So there's,
So I want to make sure that all groups are represented
that's great.
somehow.
We'll leave that with you and the village. Now,
Yeah.
remember, this is not a comprehensive planning process.
Right. But the committee is very important. It's a foundation.
The steering committee is a governance steering. There's a comprehensive planning effort that's separate from this. It's also going on. The comprehensive planning effort is to help vision out the next 20 years. And what does the village want to be when it grows up? That's a separate process. It's a very important process. This is a governance. That is your future visioning. How do you want to grow? What are your priorities? How do you want to do parks, recreation, community services, housing, economic development? What's the look, feel of your hamlet? What do you want in your downtown? What do you want in the residential area? That's a comprehensive plan. That's where the real diversity is necessary. That's really where you want to have the inputs of all sectors of your community about your vision. This is a governance only about how the services will be provided. In this process. I do want to get through these all parts of them at the end. I'll give one more.
Okay, yeah, how was that committee?
The comprehensive planning committee.
Yeah, how was that?
You'll have to talk to the planning board when they start doing that. The village did receive a grant, the Hudson Valley Greenway, to begin envisioning land use in the comprehensive planning process. The planning board and the community development group together are developing an outreach process to select members or offer opportunities beyond the steering committee and the comprehensive plan. That's separate from this. Okay. Within this process, we're going to be meeting again with each of the department heads of the towns and the villages to figure out what you do, how you do it, and how would you do it should the village dissolve. We're going to be meeting together with the 3 highway departments, 3 police departments, 3 controllers, 3 treasurers, 3 supervisors, the 2 town attorneys, and the village attorney to talk about the laws and codes. And we've been developing a plan of how will services be provided and what that cost is going to be. We're going to have at least 2 public meetings. This one is just an introductory meeting. I want to make sure I come back to you guys as we have more information. Because as we have more information, you're all going to have a lot more questions. And then I'll be able to answer some of the specific questions that are not process-wise. I mentioned the website. All the documents that we provide and create will be on the website. There's posted information already about the solution on the website. But that public Q&A is critical. And I keep saying that. I keep honing in on that for a purpose. I'm not going to be taking questions one-on-one from the public at my home. I'm not going to take them at the office. And if you send me an email, I'm going to respond, but only on the website. It's not a private dialogue between me and anybody else. The questions you have, I'm pretty sure somebody else in the 35 to 50,000 people you have here has the same question. And I want to make sure you all have the same answer. It's the only way to have a transparent process is by you asking questions, us providing information. There are going to be times you ask a question. We got 12 of them today already. The answer is going to be, We're too early in the process to be able to answer this. But we will go back at the end when we have answers to put them up as well. Again, we want to make sure that this board, this community have the information that they need to make informed decisions as they go forward. But we understand there already are some emerging and key touch points that are very important to you all. Your representation and voice in government is very critical. Right now, I say 35,000, that's the census. I understand it's 45 to 50,000 in reality, but you vote for this board. These are your folks. These are the people that represent you in government right now. Town board are also your representatives, but your voice in government is diluted in a larger town than it is here. Your village identity is very important to you. This man here, this lady, it's not a man, what's your name?
Me? Oh, Joanne.
Joanne is talking about how to set up a steering committee, the comprehensive plan. Everyone here is already knowing that this is a very diverse community with diverse interests, and they have to be represented throughout the planning process. So your village identity is made up of a whole host of different types of people and different backgrounds. And that's a big issue with you all in dissolution. Critical services and service delivery should be the foundational issue for you, because the uncertainty so far in how both towns are going to be able to provide police coverage is critical. There is no good answer, and it's not for me to give an answer, but it's better to understand how will that be provided. Are we going to reduce police coverage? Are we going to increase police coverage? How are we going to pay for police coverage? One thing is sure. In New York State, there's no ability for either town to create a police district. In other words, they cannot take your village boundary and create a police district and just charge you for it. So whatever answer is, the towns, including every resident in the village of Spring Valley, will be paying for police services. So at what level of services will you gain or lose? That'll come out during this process. Fire services. Right now, you have a village fire department. Towns, as of right, cannot provide fire service. They will have to create either a fire district or a fire protection district. Two separate things. We have to figure that out during the process. We have to figure out what's going to happen to your zoning. Are they actually going to adopt all your zoning, bring it in, and use their enforcement, their process, their enabling legislation or not? What's going to happen to your planning board and zoning board? You will no longer have a planning board and zoning board. You'll be referred to the town planning and town zoning. Will there be any representation of village residents on the town planning and town zoning? These are all things that are emerging issues, touch points in dissolution. Special districts. So in towns, town-wide money cannot be spent in special districts. So they most likely, they being both towns, will have to decide what districts do they want to create. They can create a whole lot of districts. They can create a drainage district. You have 700 catch basins. They may not want to pay for that. They may want to create a special district. Lighting. They already have lighting districts. They can create lighting districts. They can do park recreation districts. They can create sidewalk districts. They can even create a snow district. So you may end up, in theory, throughout this process, dissolving one government, but creating 6 or 7 or 12 or 14 new districts. Is that good or bad? We'll go through that process with you. What happens in local laws and codes? I mentioned your local laws and codes stay on the books for 2 years, at which time they sunset. So in those 2 years, each town will have to decide which of the village-specific laws will stay and be more akin to town laws, which will be repealed, and which ones just go by the wayside. We have to figure out during your one big issue for you all is what your property taxes are going to be. Will your taxes go down? Will they go up? Will your neighbor's taxes go up? Will you be simply shifting your costs to everyone else in the town? How will they feel about that without any vote? I don't know. This is all what Gideon's going to go through with the taxes. And then what's going to happen to the outstanding village debt? Again, a myth, huge myth in the process is we dissolve, the town pays for it all. They have 150,000 people, they pay for it all. That's a big, big myth. They don't pay for any of your debt. If you have outstanding debt or you have new debt that's about to be put on the books, meaning you have someone that fell outside Village Hall the day before you dissolve, the town's going to charge the legacy district. So there's another district, by the way, that gets created. It's not a real district. It's called a legacy district. meaning that any legacy costs, any outstanding liabilities, any of your employee health benefits that you all have incurred now, you're still paying through that legacy district. The town will assess you for that. So that's what this process is all about. Understanding all the districts, all the costs, all the processes, what that means to you. So I'm going to turn it over to beginning now to talk about village liabilities and the tax impacts and the process that we're going to go through on dissolution. Yes, it's all on the website. Well, it will be. This PowerPoint will be up tomorrow, probably by 9 a.m.
Excuse me, what's your name, please? What's your name?
My name?
Yeah.
My name is Ben. Ben, B-E-N.
And who are you?
You just joining us?
I would love you, please.
Oh, well, I don't know if I can tell you. It's a well-guarded secret.
I know everything.
No. For those of you that just joined in the back, my name is Ben Seiden. I'm the Vice President of Laberge Group. I run the government operations segment of the firm. Gideon Grandy is our local government specialist. He's a project manager that's been working on this project. Gideon has over 25 years of municipal budgeting, finance, and governance experience. I know I look young, but I have over 35 years working with governments. Together, we make up 2/3 of the government operations team that works throughout the interstate and reorganizing governments from service optimization, service delivery models, the government consolidation, sharing services, and dissolution.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. As Ben mentioned a few moments ago, one of the main misconceptions of dissolution is that liabilities that the village has just magically disappear. That's not the case. So part of the process is creating both an inventory of all the village's assets and liabilities, as well as a disposition plan for those. So liabilities, these might be any debt the village has issued, bond, ban, revenue anticipation notes, leases it might have, the retiree healthcare costs or other post-employment benefits for village employees, both now and in the future. Again, if anyone slipped and fall the day before dissolution, that could also be a charge against the village itself. So as we inventory and dispose of all these assets and liabilities, the liabilities will remain with the village residents, and some of these assets that could be sold or disposed of in any way can be used to pay down some of these liabilities as part of the plan. It's very common, we've seen in other dissolutions for municipalities to do this. So there's sort of two big pieces as far as the fiscal impact goes. One is the initial one-time transitional cost. These might include things such as lawyers to draw up new special district maps and plans, planners to do that type of thing, IT connectivity. If police services are moving, we might need microwave systems to enhance the dispatch to different areas of the towns within the village. But I think most importantly are the long-term structural changes to what's going to happen. Post-dissolution, the towns will provide all the services, fire, police, sewer, water, refuse, DPW. There's a whole host of services that all the residents of Spring Valley receive. And with the towns, with their special district piece, it gets a little more complicated. In villages, you have one tax base. The town or the village board levies taxes, and it's spread across everybody in the village. In towns, this becomes a lot more complicated because each part of the town, the special district covers, the tax base or the taxes are only spread across that small tax base. Ramapo is a unique town with a part-town policing district that also needs to be accounted for in this process as well. And again, as we talked about at the top, Spring Valley is a part of two towns. So every single calculation and split of taxes that has to be done for Ramapo has to be done for Clarkstown as well. Ben talked about the Citizens Empowerment Tax Credit, which will be $1 million a year that will be split between Ramapo and Clarkstown in the event of dissolution. You know, we also want to look at things that are going to change. Villages have certain powers that towns do not. One of them is, for example, your utility gross receipts tax on energy and other bills. That revenue will no longer be available to the towns. Aid and incentives to municipalities, state aid. Once communities dissolve, the state has taken the position that AIM is no longer payable. So between those two things, the towns are going to lose some revenue as compared to what the village receives now. But the CETC is designed to make up for that. So we'll be developing both a one-time transitional cost estimate. Excuse me? Sorry. So we'll be developing both a one-time transitional cost estimate as well as what the long-term ongoing changes in taxation will be for the people of Spring Valley, Clarkstown, and Renton.
Hey, Gideon, we have 6 more seats up front if people want to come up front.
Yes, sir.
What is the current village budget?
The current village budget is about $38 million.
So the current budget is $30 million, you're talking about $1 million. That's not gonna take a whole lot.
Given the size of Spring Valley, Clarkstown, and Ramapo and their collective budgets, $1 million is a relatively small number.
You mentioned that when you discussed it. Now, when you talk about merging, who's merging with who? If the town is dissolved, where does it go? I pay a Ramapo tax now. Am I even part of Ramapo? I'm gonna become part of Clarkstown.
Yet to be determined.
No, it's not yet to be determined.
Oh, it's determined.
No, it's determined. If you live in the town of Ramapo, you'll be in town of Ramapo. If you live in town of Clarkstown, you'll be in Clarkstown.
Oh, okay.
It's very
Doesn't
simple.
matter.
It's automatic.
As the village is dissolved, people live in Ramapo, reporting for Ramapo, without in the
Well, we have said that already, but we can be more clear.
So yes, every resident of Spring Valley is a resident of either Ramapo or Clarkstown. And the village will, if it were to dissolve, will no longer exist, and the town you currently reside in will be your only local government.
Okay, so then all that remains to be discussed, whether the people in Valley owe money or have assets that will pay for the money they owe, then they own property. And then you have to discuss with the police force and the sewer and garbage pickup.
There's a lot more involved in that, but thank you.
What else?
The entire, as I mentioned before, the entire village government, I'm going to ask everyone to hold their questions and comments until we end so we can finish the presentation.
Continuing with the Citizens Empowerment Tax Credit, $1 million would get split about 10% to Clarkstown and 90% to Ramapo. The tax credit is split on a per capita basis between the towns. I'm going to mention here that yes, $100,000 in the scheme of the Clarkstown town budget will likely not change taxation very much within that town. And I think one of the important pieces is what happens to village codes and village laws. Ben mentioned this as well, that village laws will stay on the books for up to 2 years until such time as the towns decide to repeal them, change them, or incorporate them into the current town codes. And, zoning is going to be a large topic of the dissolution plan. And we need to outline how the zoning of the village is going to be incorporated into the towns, or if they're going to do a wholesale village rezoning. These are things we don't know at this point, speaking with the towns and get their input as to how they would like to move forward. Other village local laws and codes that exist. It could be a situation where the village code really just isn't applicable anymore at the town level. That the village code really should stay and it will be incorporated into the town laws, and then, or that the village and town laws are very similar and there really might not be a lot of impact on that at all. And I think bottom line at the end, everyone sort of wants to know, does it make sense? Does it save money? And the proposed dissolution will change how services are delivered. And it is for the residents of Spring Valley to decide, is that a good change for me? Is that a bad change for me? Same thing to go with the fiscal impact, that there are going to be instances where taxes are going to be reduced, and there are going to be instances where taxes are going to increase. But we are not here to say that a village should dissolve, shouldn't dissolve. These are decisions that the community needs to make. And maybe some services aren't going to continue because towns don't provide them. And there could be situations where the town could provide the service better. That's what this process is all about. and what we'll be having in our plan moving forward. So after referendum, if the village board gets to this point where the plan is put to referendum and the referendum vote happens and it takes place. So if the referendum vote is no, dissolution will certainly not happen, and there's a moratorium on the ability of a resident to file a petition for 4 years. So there's a 4-year moratorium if the people of Spring Valley vote down dissolution. There are some mechanisms sort of around this in the law, but for the most part, it's dead for 4 years. If the residents of the village vote yes, dissolution will occur on the date in the plan. Usually we like to leave a year or so lead time and set the date of dissolution on 12/31 of a given year, so that the towns may set up their budgets and budget appropriately for the services that we now need to provide in an expanded area. This will also give the village an opportunity to maybe enter into IMAs with the village, just begin to transfer some of the functions and staff from the village to the towns, and as well as get a full accounting of your assets that would be in the plan and what should be done with them. Should they be sold and then brought cash assets into the village to pay down some of the liabilities that exist? At the same time, the towns will be ramping up operations to take on these additional services, and they'll have to likely they could need to buy new equipment. They could need to find homes, and I don't mean homes, residences, I mean desks and locations for new employees to report to work. And the process of creating special districts that may be in the village takes legal work, planning work, mapping work. So there's a lot to be done even in a transition period for both the village and the town. Lastly, the funding for reorganization. Ben mentioned this previously as well. The village has submitted an application for up to $50,000 from the State Department of State to fund part of the study. And then if the village votes to reorganize, additional $50,000 would be available for the implementation plan as well. So the state is a partner in all this, and we look forward to coming up with a sound plan that is realistic and makes sense for the village and the 2 towns. Thank you.
So, now we're going to do questions. We're going to go across the room from left to right. We'll start with the board. If you have any questions, go down. We'll keep going back, and that way everyone has a shot. I'm going to ask everyone. I know it's still working.
Yeah.
We're going to ask everyone to keep their comments to 3 minutes, so other people have the opportunity to speak. If your question has already been asked, please ask a different one. That way we can keep going through the meetings. Again, if there's specifics about your tax impact or the services, how they're going to be delivered, we just started the process a few weeks ago, so we're not going to have those answers. I would urge you also to go back to that website, ask questions, so we all have the same answers. And again, if I don't have the answer yet, we'll go back to that when we do have an answer, update the Q&A, and send out on Fridays the update. So look in your emails Fridays or Mondays for the new information. That way you all can get kept informed. So start the board. Do you have any questions or comments you want to make in this juncture?
I just want to.
Sure.
I just want to mention, first of all, thank you for Ben and Billy for coming down today. I just want to mention, I don't know if the residents know about it or not, but apparently we had a petition filed already in the past. So the reason why the board felt that important to do the other way around is to have the study without going to the booth and voting on something that we don't know. Like Ben mentioned earlier, if that petition would have been valid, then we would have been forced to have a referendum, and then the public would come out just based on feelings, not based on data or research or studies, and everyone would have been able to vote yay or nay, but without the facts out there. So the reason why the board felt that it was important to go the other route is because we had a petition filed already, and we wanted to know what's the best thing to do, wanted the public to be aware of it. The board itself wanted to be aware and what and to see the actions, whether it's good or bad. And we don't know all the information yet. But that's basically the reason why the board felt that way and why the board voted in that direction to start the study. That's my counsel that I'm going to make.
Anything else on the board? Second row. You've been here for 36 years and got here at 5:15. I saw you at 5:15, so did you have a question or a comment you wanted to make?
Not really, except that it's sad that 2 days before Spring Valley becomes celebrate our 124th anniversary, we're talking about dissolution. It's a sad day in Spring Valley.
I guess it's a question and a comment. You had mentioned earlier in your presentation that, this is community centric, and trust is important. I want to know or make you aware that there is a lack of trust within the village of Spring Valley. There's a very long, deep history here of division. The people in power, there's a chasm between them and the people that they have decisions over. I guess I want to know how much transparency, how much involvement will be involved with the community, just because we need perhaps more transparency than your average village.
All the information we create, all the research that we develop, all the analysis that we use will be available on. So you'll be able to see everything that we create.
But as far as the decision-making process, those conversations, sort of closed-door conversations, and then the results are presented to us, or are these public forums where at least the public can sit there, be involved in those conversations?
Well, there's an interesting point involved. This is not a citizen-created plan on how I'm going to get over. This is really up to the town of Round Pole, town of Clarkstown, as how they see themselves governing. And unfortunately, that's the process. Now, there's two ways that it can be done. You can develop a dissolution plan where you decide what you want to do, but you're not bound by it, so it's useless. So that's the problem. That's the problem. It's a flaw in the law. I've said this for Carl's heard me talk about it for 15 years. That there should be a process where any plan that you're creating a town should have to adopt. That way you have certainty that they're going to provide the services the way you ask them. That's not the process in New York State. So we ask the towns to participate in developing the plan, and we put that plan out so you know what that is. That way when you vote, you have the information that they've provided the input on. So you'll know, yes, I'm going to keep my police services the way it is with that, or no, I'm losing all my police services. I'm having 2 cars today, or a shift. So that's part. The transparency that I talk about is the FAQ, is the question. You guys can ask questions. We'll answer them Fridays or Mondays. We'll have more public meetings so you can get information. Information that we create flyer-wise will be available hopefully in a few languages. We're working on changing our website to have multiple languages, a drop-down box. So people that don't know that English is not their first language can still read the information through Google Translate. Always going to be perfect.
That's right.
It's not always going to be perfect. So that'll be.
Follow up to that. Thank you. Did you mention, and forgive me if I misunderstood, that whatever the towns present are not binding, so they can present something to the public.
Correct.
That sounds great. And it's like, oh, okay, maybe we should dissolve, and then we vote yes on the referendum, and then they just change it to whatever they'd like after.
Correct.
Okay.
It's a very, very real issue. It's a very, very real concern that a town can get down to they're going to pay, but this is not a binding document. The only way a village and town have a binding document is if you went the consolidation route as opposed to dissolution. I didn't talk about consolidations. I didn't want to muddy the waters on the first day. But also in the lovely Article 17A, there's a secondary process of reorganizing governments. It's called consolidation. It's when a village and town merge. And the gentleman back used the word merge. So I'm using it here. You're not in dissolution, you're not merging. You're giving up. You are walking away from your government structure. You're walking away from your leaders and saying, we no longer want you to lead us. We no longer want this to occur. And you're asking the towns to provide the services. Because that's what you do. You're not merging. In a consolidation, village and the town create what's called a JCA, a joint consolidation agreement, where you two are jointly agreeing on how the services will be provided. And both the village and the town get to vote. That's a merger. That's a marriage of two governments. It's a consolidation. It has never been done in New York State. There may be a first. We're working on that. They're meeting they just started maybe 3 minutes ago in the village of New Paltz. They've been talking about this legitimately for 30 years in the village of New Paltz about how to consolidate. So they're in that process. And for them, most of their services are already shared. So it's a little bit of a different environment. Here, you have a very, very real fear that whatever is told to you by Ramapo and Clarkstown does not actually have to be followed. I mentioned that earlier. That's non-binding. Only thing that's binding is that you're dissolved. Meaning your planning board will no longer plan. Your zoning board will no longer provide a zoning board of appeals services. Your code enforcement, your DPW, your police, there'll be no longer a government structure at the village of Spring Valley. Whether that's good or bad, as Gideon mentioned, doesn't make sense with an S or sense with a C. That's up to you all. We're going to provide the information from which you can make that decision. But the fear in every dissolution plan, the town will not abide by that. However, there is another reality. You have 35,000 to 50,000 people here. You'll now make up a sizable chunk of a block vote in a town around Town of Clarkstown. So if they're not doing what they said, you go back to voting votes. That's the only way you can do it. But it's a very real, it's a very, very real fear. That's why we put it up. Did you have a question? Pass it on. Why does your voice sound so much better on the microphone than mine?
I have two questions. My first question is, when was the contract entered into between you and the village of Spring Valley?
About a month and a half.
A month and a half ago? Do you know when? Like,
Not all. About a month and a half.
and that was with the mayor contacting you to,
The village board passed a resolution to hire us.
but the mayor contacted you. He indicated that he contacted.
None of our. I have contacted. I'm happy to.
Thank you. Okay, my other statement is more of a comment to you. And I think you seem to be missing the mark on what the citizens are saying to you in terms of our voice. Because the selection that you indicated is appropriate for the steering committee doesn't represent most of this community. And I think you missed that.
Oh, I heard that.
I think you missed it. Your comments to the people who expressed the concern seem to miss the point. So I think it's very important if your company is going to be representing the people of this village with respect to this process, that you need to acknowledge that there are other people in this village that are not represented on the steering committee that you just outlined and who want to be a part of the decision-making process for this whole consolidation, reorganization, or whatever we want to call it. There's a lot of people who live here who were born and raised in this village, and I'm one of them, who want to know that our voice is being heard. And I didn't get that vote.
So I just wanted to make clear, because I know it was mentioned that I had reached out to the Laberge Group. I actually came in contact with the Laberge Group during my earlier training sessions when I went to Albany. So Laberge, in addition to performing studies like this, they also help with various municipal optimization services. Because Spring Valley is a village in need, it made sense considering our DPW. I've spoken about this very repeatedly, that I've seen its staffing levels reduce hundreds of %. So I thought it was smart to bring in a consultant as we ramp up the hiring of DPW, Our building department, which is something else that I ran on and wanted to bring back, and we brought in a consultant to advise us. And it was only after this consultant was engaged about some of these services, about building up the DPW and the building department, did this issue come up with one of the other board members reaching out to them specifically to provide information regarding dissolution. Like I said before, I personally abstained during the dissolution vote. The reason for my abstention is I believe as a leader, I should not be turning my back to information, because ultimately information is something that we'll all benefit from. But more importantly, I think dissolution is not right for this village. I think this is a political document. You know, I decided to come here, decided to run because I believe in Spring Valley. I believe in people. I believe that Spring Valley has experienced disinvestment. The problems that we face are not insurmountable. You know, only 10 years ago, our roads were cleaner than town of Ramblepunk. We know only 10 years ago, our DPW was providing those critical services. So as I said, nearly every time that I've been on the mic, there's a story to be told. There's a story that the residents of the community know all too well. And this is just another footnote. I think information is going to bear out what I already know. We need to invest in the village that we already have.
Can I just say a couple?
Well, wait.
It's on, I got it rooted.
T-shirt for dropping the post. In the steering committee, if I understood you correctly, steering committee is a guiding board that is legally comprised of people you mentioned, the two town supervisors, the deputy supervisors, and the mayor, and one person from the community. All this is a guiding board. They don't have any real power to do anything, but there'll be another board underneath that will have members of the community from diverse groups on it that will help guide this.
So I guess I'm not doing a very good job of educating. It's not very good.
Okay, so first off, there is no legal requirement to have a steering committee at all. All there's a requirement to do in a board initiated dissolution plan is to create a dissolution plan. Period. I can go to the backyard, I can go do it at home, with no input from anybody, but it won't be real. It won't be factual. The only thing that we do in a dissolution plan is understand how will the services be provided if you dissolve. It is not a personal issue. It is not an issue that the community has real input on how those services are provided, because the plan is not binding by the towns. The reason why we ask for a steering committee is so we have representation of the towns. So as we're understanding how they're going to provide the services, there's somebody at the table saying, this is what we want to do. Now, the towns do not have to participate. It could simply be the village board developing a dissolution board. But that's not how we operate. We ask for the towns to participate because it's the towns that will be governed. And go back to the beginning. If a village chooses to dissolve its government structure, and it's the people that right now provide your services will no longer be empowered to do so. People that will be providing those services will be the town of Round Hill government and their employees, and the town of Clarktown government and their employees. So it's critical that we have their input on how they feel they would be able to provide those services. You currently have a DPW. How will the town of Round Hill and town of Clarktown clear your streets in the winter? How will they provide storm sewer cleanouts and drainage? How will they do their cash bases? What will they do for SWIP review? How are they going to run a zoning board and a planning board? What will they do with your codes? Those are all questions that the public has no real input on. They can think of ideas, but the town government is who will be empowered to do so. So when we ask for the steering committee, it's not because we do not want public involvement, where there will be opportunities, public meetings, forums, and the website to get public input, to get ideas, to answer questions. But at the end of the day, when I say village dissolution is a town issue, not a village issue, it is. Because they're the ones that are left holding the bag, so to speak, on your services. They're the ones that have to decide, will I put 4 officers in 2 cars per sector, per shift? Or will I have the full complement of what you have right now and charge the rest of the town? Will I only have 17 DPW workers? And you're correct, Mayor. 8 years ago, you had 31. You have 17, of which 6 are custodial janitorial staff. Of your DPW, you do not have a superintendent, you have an acting supervisor, and you have a situation where you have 5 actual DPW laborers, or 7, 2 are in workman's comp. So how will town of Ramapo provide those services? How many more personnel or people will they need? What will that cost you? Are there any pieces of equipment that you have that work? Will they want those? Will they buy more? How will they pay? That's why the steering committee has the town votes, because it's their decision on how they're going to operate. And you need to know how they're going to operate this so you can make a decision. It's not fair for this board to come up with a plan without any input from a town, because they're the ones that have to do it. That's why. We're not ignorant, we're not uncaring, and we're not ignoring the diversity of the community and the interest of the public participate in the steering committee. But the people that I need to get the information from, to give to you so you know what you're voting on, are the people providing the services. We will be coming back to focus groups. We will be coming back to community groups and getting your input, because your input is critical for understanding the process and the impact. At the end of the day, if this board decides to give you a dissolution plan to vote on, you need to know how will your services be provided. Who do I call? Where do I call? Am I in Ramapo or am I in Clarkstown? They can each decide to do things differently. In the town of Wolcott, as far from you as almost possible, in Wayne County, up by Canadian border, outside Rochester, Wolcott, it's Wolcott. I kept calling it Wolcott, not Cott, it's a kid. Wolcott, no I, that's how they pronounce it. They're in 2 towns. And one town supervisor said, no, I'm not going to provide that. I'm not going to have zoning. I'm not going to do your drainage. I'm not going to clean your sidewalks. And the other town said, I'm going to do everything you have right now. So we have to understand, will Clarkstown do what you're doing? Will Ramapo do what you're doing? Or will there be differences amongst the 2 of them? It's all part of the process. Sir.
Okay. It seems to me that you're starting at the wrong point.
How is that?
The board needs to know financially, does it make sense to dissolve?
And you don't know that until you understand what you're going to be doing.
Hold on. You don't know that until you know what the tax base is in Ramapo, what it is in Spring Valley, what it is in Clarkstown, and what the additional cost of services might be, assuming that you keep them the same. In other words, there's a financial analysis that I'm not hearing you're doing.
Oh, that's absolutely as required as part of the plan.
Great. So in order to have a vote by the board to dissolve, they need that. And what I want to hear.
What we've been talking about.
And no, you're talking about the financial side of the town.
No.
Well, that's what I'm hearing.
Well,
maybe you need to explain it better.
Sure, I'll try a different way.
Okay.
Can I talk for a second? I think there's a misconception. Board has no power to vote to dissolve an act whatsoever. All the board can do is put it out to a referendum for the public.
Right.
So the village board cannot decide on their own to dissolve.
I know that. But my problem here is the village board needs information to put it out. In other words, if my taxes are going to go up as a result of this, you can rest assured nobody here is going to vote for it. If on the other hand, if the taxes are going to go down because of this, hey, I want to hear. But what I'm not hearing is the plan to give me, voter, resident, information to make that decision.
That's what the
It's
decision.
exactly what the study is all about, and this is what we're doing. To address your concern, the concern of everyone else, to give the information out there, to have you study the information, and for you to make a rational decision at the end of the day, whether it's in your favor or not. And you're 100% right. Without knowing the facts, without knowing the numbers, it's impossible to do so. But that's exactly why we're doing this study, for you and everyone else to get the numbers out.
So then my second question is how much is this study going to cost? I have a copy of the contract for the original consulting for DPW. That was $50,000. I can't imagine that a dissolution plan, as you call it, is going to cost an insignificant amount of money. Does anybody want to share what the estimated costs of the study that they're doing is going to be?
Sure. No, it's all public record. The study is $93,000 and $50,000 of it's requested from New York State.
So 140,
No, 40.
This is why we're doing the study.
Got it.
93 minus 50.
So now what happens to the 50,000 the board already approved in March for the DPW?
That's a separate study. The village is working.
Why are you studying DPW if you're doing a plan where DPW may no longer exist in Spring Valley?
Because the village is working along parallel tracks.
The village is working as usual business, we continue with business. Since as the deputy mayor says, since vote came in, not a vote, a petition, a referendum came in last year, and if the referendum would have gone to the vote, we might have been closed, it might be over the petition. As of now, whoever did it last time can do it again. But now the village board chose it's a better route to go, to know the numbers, exactly what you're asking, get all the numbers, so we're doing it through the village. Now the village, in the village board, not the board and the mayor, our brain is continue business as usual. We need to improve DPW, or whatever the mayor said, we need to continue. So we're not stopping from doing what we're a part of doing it. We need to improve DPW, so we do a study in DPW. We need to do a comprehensive plan, we do a comprehensive plan. It looks like that we're spending money, but it's not. It's because we want to continue. If this is not happening, this solution, the village board needs to continue to do business. So it's not contradicting, it's continue business as normal, and a part of it is also a dissolution study. Nothing is happening, nothing is done till it's a vote on it.
Okay.
He already had his 3 minutes. Let's move the mic. Let's move the mic.
I didn't have 3 minutes.
I'm gonna be like, I used to say in my early days, I'm like Phil Donahue going
You
down.
said 3 minutes.
Yeah. So, I do want to, and I want to answer part of the question.
Because there's people
We're
in the
gonna go
room.
right down your road a second. Just listen to one piece. The reason why we do this study, why we talk to town to figure out how they want to provide the services, is because it's part and parcel to the cost of services. Do they need to increase taxes? Do they have to increase staff? Do they have to bring over the office? Do they have to bring over DPW? How many more people do they need? Equipment do they need? DPW garages do they need to provide the services? Everything that government does is a cost. So we have, in order to figure out that cost, we have to figure out the services and the delivery of the service, the model for delivery of services, so we can do the fiscal impact analysis to provide the information as to what does it mean to your tax dollars. That's why we do the process. So that's the answer.
You asked the question, and there's a friend you next. Oh, which way you said you were gonna roll by roll? Don't forget that.
The guy in the champion.
Yeah.
Did you have a question, sir?
Basically, I wanted to say, how will businesses be affected? I've been in business for a long time in this community, as far as going back as far as 90 with my family. And a lot of the situations that we go through now is rental increase, litigation problems, and all kind of different things that, how will they be protected going forward if a dissolution was to happen on that stage? And also, I would have another question too. Probably start with that one, but what's the plan to address housing costs and basically the conditions of deteriorating houses that we deal with in Spring Valley, as far as houses that are, the upkeep. We tell the village here to get on certain housing people about the way their houses look and the garbage. How would that be effective?
So, those of you in the back that may not have heard the questions, you can put them together, is how what will the impact on business be? B, what's the impact on housing going to be? The example of codes. So this is not a plan for how the town is going to help or not help do provide economic development or services. The governance structure that a town has outside the village will be how you'll be adjudicated and run. So how business is in the town, whatever their rules are, with licensing or permits or codes and zoning will be in place, except for your local zoning. So if you locally have a B1 district or a neighbor business district, it's up to the town first and let us know, will they absorb your zoning? And so your zoning stays as is, or will they be changing zoning the way they want it to be on their end? So that's it. We don't have an answer on that.
So if they change zonings, like if we're in a business zone now and they decided that they don't want it to be a business zone,
You'd be grandfathered.
be grandfathered in?
Yeah, you'd be grandfathered, and then there have to be special permits going forward if people want to change it and how the use is going forward. In Orangetown, they created a hybrid zoning code, meaning they took over the village of South Nyack zoning for districts and uses and the bulk schedule, and they brought it in and put an H in front of it. So, because you can't have two R1 districts. So the town outside of South Nyack was R1, the village or the hamlet of South Nyack became H, R1, hamlet residential 1. You kept that. As far as codes, the town around Bow and the town of Clarkstown is where you go for your code enforcement. You give a complaint on how big the lawn is, or a complaint with the upkeep, or anything to do with the housing, you go to town around Bow or the town of Clarkstown, whichever town you're in. So how they adjudicate it, how they run it, it's up to how they do it right now.
They need to go see what they're doing
Correct.
to know how they're gonna operate, if they're gonna operate the same way.
Correct.
Can I have a question? I have a question that maybe some others didn't get a clear answer yet. In terms of the steering committee, unlike some consolidation, the towns are usually bound by what they say during those meetings. What's the idea of having a steering committee if the towns are not bound by what they say during those meetings?
It's a very good question, and unfortunately, again, Carl's heard me talk about this 15 years. I want the law changed. I want the towns to have to adopt the same plan so residents have certainty. The only thing we can do as a consultant is ask the town to be involved in a steering committee and provide the information. If they don't want to provide information, then all we, as Gideon and I have, is a town budget to go by. So we ask them to say, okay, yes, this is how we want to go forward. Yes, I want to create a district for lighting, or no, I don't. Yes, I want to keep all the officers and have a patrol, have a substation, or no, I don't. The more information they provide us of how they envision government, the easier Gideon's job is to model the fiscal impact. So you know exactly how it's going to impact your taxes. Will your taxes go up or down? Will the residents outside of town taxes go up or down?
But in essence, they're not bound by anything.
They're not bound by it. And
It's informational purposes.
informational purposes, not binding. It's as scary as this young lady mentioned.
So it eventually can be deceiving, because if they say one thing at the steering meetings, then at the end of the day, they decide to do something else. I mean, what's the idea?
There is the only recourse. The only recourse you have is at the voting booth, which you know how that happens.
Yeah, but the residents are going to the voting booth with the information we provided to them based on what the towns provided to us.
Correct.
If they're gonna do something else that they didn't say, or they decided to change their course of action.
Correct.
It has a huge impact.
It has a huge impact. Absent changing the law, which no state assemblyman or senator has taken up. Absent that, the only process of getting their involvement is to invite them to be part of the steering committee, of which they do not have to do.
They can say no.
They can say no. And so Gideon has put together a very in-depth data request from both towns to get information from them so that we can do our analysis. If they don't provide it, then we have to foil it. And if we have to foil it, now you have a battle. So it's a process that's flawed. It's not a perfect process. All we can do is the best that we can do as a community to figure out what it means to you before you go forward. Unfortunately, there's no binding. So we're going down now. Like I said before, I had to go down back and forth.
Let me pass the mic.
I would like to know, why do all this change have to come? I'm talking to the mic. I would like to know why all these different changes have to come. Why each city or county can't just run their own business? Why Spring Valley can't stay as it is in the mayor set up? Everything needs to be set up. Rampo stay at their area, Crosstown stay at their area, and Spring Valley stay at there. Why everything have to be changed around?
Sure. I'm going to try to be clearer. Because apparently I'm not doing a very good job of being clear. Okay, let's try this a third or fourth time of articulating. There is no requirement that you change. Okay, Town of Round Bow, Clarkstown, your Spring Valley. There was a petition last June or July. If a petition happens under New York State law, you are required to certify that in 10 days, meet in 30 days to call for a referendum, vote in 60 to 90 days. Required by law, with no information, make a decision on the future of your community. So let's make that clear, you're voting with no information. You have no idea what's going to happen with your taxes or your services. The board took a proactive approach to the fear of getting hit with a petition because it's been talked about and done. They made the decision to provide information to actually figure out what would happen if we dissolve. What does it mean if we dissolve? Who provides the services if we dissolve? What happens to fire? What happens to public safety and police? What happens to ambulance? Who do I call? What happens to my roads? What happens to my staff? What happens to my neighbors? What happens to business and housing in my local laws? They made the decision to be proactive to give you information so you can actually make an informed decision. That's why I said at the beginning this, I applaud the village board. It's a very difficult decision to make. Nobody I've met in 27 years has said, I want to get rid of myself. That's it. I'm out of here. Peace out. Done. Drop the microphone, turn off the lights and leave. It's a very difficult decision to be an adult in the room and offer to give information to the public to make an informed decision, which is why I commended them for that decision. Not easy. You know, the reverse is you vote with no information. And remember, in a petition, you have to vote. No ifs, ands, or buts, there will be a vote in a petition. This does not guarantee a vote. This, the board can still say, folks, this doesn't make any sense to us. We're losing on every single issue. If we do this, we don't need to vote. Or they may say, this makes sense, and give you an opportunity to vote. But it's not a hit and complete. I'm not coming here with an axe to destroy this village. I know you all feel that I'm the bad guy, and that's okay. I've been doing this a very long time.
I think you have to explain things.
Okay, so I talk. Well, I'm trying to provide the information. Because the question, when I called the finish line, wasn't. And I thought the second time wasn't.
It's gonna say a couple of words.
Yeah, I gotta get top question out.
I want to know the purpose behind this whole thing to dissolve the village of Valley. This is a place that I call home. I don't need town around Club to tell us what to do. Is this because you guys don't want to be on the board or something? I don't understand why they want to dissolve the village of Spring Valley. It seems as if it's gonna cost even more if we do that.
I will explain you again, but nobody wants to, it's exactly what he said. I think maybe he doesn't do a good job, I will try my best. It's very simple, nobody wants or don't want. It's a fact. The fact that the last July 4 weekend, a year ago, not this time. A year ago, petition came in with 2,000 signatures.
It happened twice.
And it happened twice, and it put us, the board.
Yeah.
To be responsible and to take the heat from everybody who's blaming us for things, to do the right thing. The right thing is, if the petition would have gone through, or they do it again, literally, as he said, it's a process, it's done. We don't know, we as the board don't know what to do. We are part of the whole community, nobody knows what to do. The town of Brentford gets a that and say, listen, this is yours, take care of it. Clarkstown, everybody can do what they want, nobody knows. Go to the vote, people will vote, they don't know what they're voting. Yes, they'll find out after it's wrong. People don't know, I don't know. So the board took a big step. As you see how big it is, that the mayor had to, he didn't want to do it because he felt that it's not the right thing to do. But the rest of the board felt they had to go and take the heat from the people, think that we're doing something crazy to save all of us. And what he's doing, and I'm going to talk about his steering committee. He could have just deleted, don't do a steering committee, don't talk about it. Nobody would have known, nothing would have happened. Steering committee is basically, I would change his name. I just don't have access to this to be an informational board. He just needs to get information to be able to distribute the right numbers. He needs the town, both towns, he needs the village. It's informational purposes. It's nothing for voting, nothing decision. Decision will be made in the booth. Information, as he said, can be more open than his website and all his questions. He can't be more open than that. Any question you have. Meanwhile, most of the people here, everybody's nice. make comments. Comment is not the point. Information first. Question of asking, what is gonna be a gain if we close the police department? That's a question. He can't answer that now, because he doesn't have the number. He doesn't have, this company, Laberge, does not have any information by it. They just came here to explain us what the process is, how it's gonna go through. There is no any answer. If anybody's answering you something about the change, it's a lot, made up thing. You cannot answer anything. It's fake news, great. Not answer, it's very simple. We had a company, or the village board, hired to explain how this process works. They're doing a great job. Ben is explaining it 3 or 4 times. You're doing a great job. People, it takes a little time to get it. It's again, very simple. It's not what, it's not when, and it's not where. It's how the process works. And that's what we should focus. The question should be, what's the next step? That's what it is, not what is gonna happen. I hope in the.
Well, we did enough petitions where we were saying, no, we don't want this. Why are we here? We did enough petition signatures.
You didn't.
Yes, we did.
There's no such thing as.
No.
Once they do the study.
There may have been a group trying to get a petition going to save the village. That's not, but there's no legal, there's nothing legal behind it. The only way to save the village is to vote no on the dissolution. Okay? No, ma'am, I'm not saying what I'm going to say. I'm saying this for 27 years. It doesn't work that way. Ma'am, it does not work that way.
I don't have a question, but I want to thank you for a thorough presentation. Really, it was helpful. I appreciate you know how to run a meeting. You do know how to run a meeting, and I look forward to the website.
Thank you.
Right?
That was awesome. You want to take next questions? Thank you. Anybody?
I don't need the mic. Trustee Gross, I have a question for you. I have a question for Trustee Gross. The same way you guys make the decision to vote to bring these people here, why you didn't vote to clean the village of Spring Valley? Why you didn't vote to open the vote, but so all young people can, can have something to do?
Great. The village board meeting is gonna be right after this meeting. Any comments like this should be for the village board meeting. Thank you.
No, can you answer me now?
No, let's do the village meeting. Now we have a company here, came down.
The way we have the meeting. You still not gonna like.
Now let's focus on this company doing their job, not bring out a lot of stuff. This company is Laberge.
Laberge?
Yeah, the consulting company.
Laberge company.
Laberge Group.
What are they?
It's Laberge Group.
I thank you guys for coming down and present whatever it is that you presented, the solution for the base, for the village. And I'd like to know for sure if the board can give us, because since the board is here, can give us a guarantee after all said and done, they will vote no, not to send it to a referendum. That's exactly what I'm hearing. The final decision is up to the board after we do that exercise. That's costing $93,000. Meanwhile, TPW went from 16 employees to only 5. Okay, in my opinion, that's a waste of money, but you wanted to do that. Okay, you want to know the cost, you want to know what's associated with it, the whole night yard. Give us at least now a guarantee that you're going to vote no, it's not going to go for a referendum. All of you are here.
I don't think they heard you.
I had a question, and I'll answer briefly. That it's impossible for me to make a decision without knowing the facts. Once I'll get it back, then I'll be able to make a rational decision whether it's something good or bad. So I cannot give it.
You know the answer better than us. You're very smart, man. You're not to play here. I told you there's not a game here. We have
It's
to
not
get
the
for
game.
business. We have a company, we have a company brought down to do business. That's not focused. We can all do that after they leave when we have our social plan. Thank you.
So I don't know if it's just the police department that may wonder this, but obviously if the municipality, will use Clarkstown as an example, doesn't want this, they may say in order to cover the village, they may boost their numbers. They may say they're gonna bring in more police than may be needed or more DPWs that may be needed. How do you guys begin if you feel that someone's undercutting? So if we put out 5 patrolmen a shift, if Ramapo says, hey, we can cover it with 3 patrolmen, how do you guys use that information saying, hey, Spring Valley struggles doing the job with 5 cops on the road, and now Ramapo is saying they can do it with 3. How do you guys look at that kind of data or information?
So, yeah, I mean, we have to sort of take what Ramapo Clarkstown might say at somewhat face value, but we are going to be going through all the data and, on public safety in particular, there are objective measures of this is how many calls to this is how many arrests have been made. These are the court arraignment statistics. And I think that when we put those things up against, in your example, a situation where a staffing level might be less than sufficient, I think that will be more.
For Valley Police, we need you and we want you here.
If I may chime in to answer this question, this is part of the stuff. So hopefully the town of Granville and town of Blackstone will come back and say how they plan on going.
Yeah.
If they come back and they say, we'll have a second municipality, the same way you have a second for Hookness or Muncie or any other place, the residents will know that this is a downside, and they hopefully, based on seeing the results, they will vote no, because they'll feel that this is a cost to the police. So this is based on what Granville and Blackstone will come back with. They may say, we'll use the same amount of we have now. They may say we'll use the same idea we have now, like 10 sectors for the entire town, and obviously that will be a cut. So it all depends on them, what they will come back, what they will say. The village has no say, and we have no way of forcing them to control humans of our.
I know they don't have a say in what each town or municipality proposes. I just want to know how they look at that when they do their study, saying this isn't realistic, that you're gonna cover.
I just want to tell you, they only take in information. They're not making suggestions. They're just gonna make a book. Basically, after they take all the information, that's what I did. I did research on that. What's it in other towns? They took all the information, they took a nice binder and wrote it and saying, listen, this is the information the village of Spring Valley has now, 60 open this. As the town responds to them saying, listen, maybe this is what the village has, this is our book plan for the town, for the village. This, so nobody is gonna, they're not even recommending, they can't recommend, recommendation. So now, both towns can say for them, when they call them, they can say, listen, we'd like to speak to you. Both towns can say, listen, we have no time for this thing. We don't want to have zero obligation to do it. Zero obligation to do it. It would be nice if they do it. Am I correct?
So I want to elaborate real quick.
Real quick. Not giving.
When we meet with the police chiefs of each town, Jimmy and I look at all the information we say, you and all. If the town says, town Roundabout says we're going to use 1 sector or 2 sectors, we put that in the plan. This is how the town is saying they're going to provide police service. And in our executive summary, look at any of our plans, all online. There's an executive summary that says, this is what's going to happen for our company. So you can make a decision. Yes, I know I'm going to lose. This is not real. I'm saying this in front of the officers. I'm sorry. It's not real. But they say they were going to cut 30 jobs. I'm going to put that in the plan and say, Brown said they're going to cut 30. Is this good or bad? Now, they say we're going to keep services where they are. What about that? We have to know from their side. That goes back to why we have an informational steering committee. So they can tell us how they're going to run their service. A village resident may say, wow, they're going to cut us down from 60 officers to 20. I have gangs, I have train stations, I have influx of drugs, we have nothing. We haven't got this. We have everything coming in New York City. We have sectors of violence, we have everything going on in this village, it's completely different than if you call it suburban part of town around. And the residents should know how that's gonna impact. So there's more than just tax dollars, there's service delivery models. So to inform the fiscal decisions, we have to understand the policy decisions, which is why we asked the town to participate, which is why it's not simply a numeric exercise. A numeric exercise, anybody can go home, take a budget, write up the numbers, and figure out what it's gonna be that. But in order to inform those fiscal decisions, you have to understand the policy decisions on how government will be provided. Government is set of policies and decisions. We need that. That's why we're doing what we do.
They can decide they want to do something different in that 7 weeks.
My question is, even if the data show that the solution was not the right thing to do for the safety, the economy aspect of it, if the vote passes, even with that data, the solution will still take place?
Yes.
So maybe like, if we already know there's about 2,000 petitions that were passed, even without the data at that time, maybe it's the time that people that are here that don't want this should probably come together, be involved, communicate with each other, stay informed, and try to work together to make sure that we make sure that, you know, this doesn't happen.
Correct.
In my opinion, this whole process is an insult to our intelligence. And by the pattern of behavior by the village of Spring Valley, you already know which way to go. And I know you said, oh, we could form a block. There's already a block. So what is going to happen is we're going to go through this charade of a process. The people in this room, the people that look like me, and the people who are sitting around me, is we're going to be like children in the backseat of a car with no say. And so when this whole survey is done, what's going to happen is going to go to a vote. And what's going to happen, the block that's already in place, they're going to say to them, listen, this is how we want you to vote. Don't worry, we're going to take care of you, whether you're in Ramapo or in Clarkstown, and the rest of us are the ones who are going to have to suffer. We've seen it, we've gone through it, and we're not surprised that it's happening to us again. So I understand you're getting paid $100,000 to tell us don't worry about it, we're researching it, but we already know the decision has already been made in the back room somewhere. We're not the solution, and we're not foolish.
This is a master plan that they have to work for years. They bring these people in it to tell you about the process and everything, but they don't make the decision already. You know? So be woke. They woke. It's like because they want to get rid of the police and have a policeman from there. So in the middle of the night, they can come, somebody can come around and set your house on fire and enough fire trucks on fire. And then you have to sell your house. But they got people that's sneaking around, setting houses on fire and whatnot. And they know it. This is a master plan. We're trying to put over on us. No one's been those fire stop. They build a bunch of
Remember, you don't have to use it.
Yeah, keep going with public input.
Excuse me. All right, so just to get this clear, the village is broke. So because the village is broke, instead of fixing it, you want to get rid of it. Right?
That makes sense.
No, right? No, just not yes. You know, just not yes. I don't want you to explain. Right? So now, everybody here, excuse me, everybody here understands that the village is broke. But more than understanding that the village is broke, they understand why the village is broke. They're upset that the village is broke. No offense to you or your man back there. I don't remember your name, Ben something. We love you. We don't know you, but we don't want you to tell us how to get rid of the village. We want a solution to save it. Now, just to highlight for everybody else in here, what you're telling us is if we can't pay our fire department, our police officers, the other towns have to come and save us. Guess what? Nobody's been coming to save us, and we still broke. So if you cannot help us, please tell us which door we can point you to and bring somebody that can. Now, you're looking for numbers. Everybody's looking for numbers. We don't have them. If we did, we wouldn't be broke. Now, just to save everybody in here some time, if you want to get rid of the village, stand up and leave. If you want to keep the village, stay. Is anybody leaving?
No.
So just to be clear, everyone is here not because we don't have better things to do, we don't want to lose the village, not because we like living here, but because we want to see it get better. So to save everyone some time, come to us with a plan, once you get these numbers, as to how not to destroy the place where all these people live. Correct me if I'm wrong. Do either one of you live here? Okay, so where do you live? You're not gonna tell us, right? Because you don't want us to come and destroy your town. Well, people are destroying our town, and we're trying to get to the bottom of it. I don't know who it is, because if we did, they wouldn't be doing it. So right now, we're looking for solutions, not you explaining us. Part of my French, mispronounced. We don't want you to tell us how you're going to get rid of our town, village, whatever you want to call it. We want a plan to save it. Yeah. If you don't have that, let me know so I can leave.
Hi, I have a couple of questions, so I'm going to try to get through them as quickly as I can. If the reorganization doesn't go through, where does the 50,000 go, and how does that pair up with the comprehensive plan? A lot of mention was about the petition last year. It didn't go through because less than 10% of the community members did not want the petition to happen. So do the board members care about the less than 10% that wanted the petition, or the other 95 people within Spring Valley who want to see Spring Valley thrive? And then lastly, is it not a conflict of interest to have a deputy mayor who is also the acting chair of the planning board for the town of Brownwood Code to be participating in this dissolution plan, along with the town supervisor who also is actively, I'm not sure what her position is, but actively working within the village of Spring Valley? Is that not a conflict of interest while this plan is moving forward?
Really trouble.
Take the mic, please. Respect him.
And as far as some of those questions, we're not here to dissolve the village or not dissolve the village. But it's really a community decision that will be made between the village board and the electorate if it gets to that point. I am not an attorney, so I would not opine on what some of those other questions you had were, but we're here to provide information and to give everyone here as much information as we can at this time, and we'll be providing more as we move forward in the process.
Illustrative purposes. Years ago, we did the Village of Mastic Beach. They were the largest village in New York State to dissolve at the time, 15,000 people. They were only a village for 6 years. In that particular plan, we came up with what would happen if they dissolved. That's what we were hired to do. But we also came up with an alternative budget. should they want to be a real village on Long Island, what would that budget be? The public understood that in that particular village, they were undertaxed. Did not have the revenue to provide the services that other villages on Long Island had. For them, it would have been a 200% increase if the town took over. It would be a 400% increase in taxes if they were rightly sized their own village. So to your question, are we here to give you a path to statement? Our role isn't to say we're dissolved. Our role is, if you are to dissolve, what it's going to be. It's up to you as a board, you as a community. I was very interested. In every single village that we worked in that chose not to dissolve, more people got involved in government than ever before. It took this issue to get people to come together of all walks of life that believed in their village, that believed in their service, that believed in their identity, to come together and come to boards and join committees, get involved in beautification, create a business improvement district, and work together towards their future. They stopped blaming each other and bound together. Now that's a weird little statement to say when we're all talking about dissolution. We're not dissolving you. We're helping you to have information so you can make that decision. While simultaneously, just by the number of people and the looks and faces that we have to show the diversity of this community, the walks of life you all come from, this shows us that you have a will amongst yourselves to continue to go forward to save your community. Again, we're not going to say it, we're not going to kill it. Only you can say it. Only you can kill it. A community, not be here for the cost. A community government structure. So within that, I also want to mention what you had to say before, ma'am. In Highland Falls and down Ohio, up the road, there was a situation where people who ran for government, for mayor, lost. So they started a petition to dissolve. Oh, so in that situation, the paramount issue was police, because the town had a part-time police department. The village had a full-time police department. The village had a detective unit. The town did not do that. The town said, we're going to run the village the same way we run the town. Part-time officers with no detective unit, relying on the county and state troopers to investigate the crimes we had. They know that they had issues with security with West Point. They knew they had issues with FEMA and flood protection, and they knew they had issues of influx of drugs from New York City into Highland Falls. The residents said, no, it's not. It's more important to me to save my police, my public safety, than it was to save $1 a day. So that's up to you. Only you can make those decisions. We have to give you that information. So there's one. I got to keep going. Everyone has a chance. Because the village board meeting is already.
Thank you so much. It's a little, so you're saying that town around the hall, and they can make, they'll say, we're gonna staff you the same way that you're used to it, we're not gonna raise taxes, put a bow on it, and get the business. But they don't have to follow.
You're gonna have to follow.
And then if we vote it down, they can come back with another petition.
Not for 4 years.
4
years. They're
No, they don't have to be, if there are any proposed, on that, like, are these villages that dissolve happy at the end of the day?
Well, there's not a formal study, as far as I know, there's no formal study of post-dissolution. However, there was a report done by Rockefeller Institute of the University of Albany on dissolution, and there's some case studies there. The first village to dissolve underneath the 2010 rule or law was the village of Seneca Falls, town of Seneca. And they had their own story to tell as police went from village to townwide. Every village that chooses to dissolve or petition to dissolve starts for a different reason. Some people in the past that start a petition because they want to study. Some want to get rid of duplicative governments. Some don't want to pay fines they got from code enforcers. Others lost election. However, they started a petition, and whatever they said when they went door to door, the petition that's signed is, shall we put forth a resolution to dissolve? It's not, shall we put forth a resolution to develop a study? It's, shall we put forth a resolution to dissolve? When a petition gets served, you have a vote. If it's valid petition, that's it. So to chastise the board or anyone, us, the board, or anybody for doing the study because you want to see this, it's great, you're right. If you got hit with the petition again, you're voting with no one. This gives you the ability to have it.
Right, if we get, information then.
And vote no. I mean, that's all we can say, is that there's a resolution, there's a referendum. You can vote no, you have the right to say no. This is a democracy. Okay, but unfortunately, and I've said this before, there's only flaw in the law, there's so many of them. It was cases done by people who never ran a government. The law was passed in 2010, but has not been amended to make any changes so that you have a level of service. I can't fight it. I can't fight it. All we can do is provide you the most impartial information, and you can make a decision at the voting vote. Next question.
I'm not from here, I'm from New York State, but I'm really confused about all this. Young lady up here asked a question about why this is happening, period. And the gentleman, I'm not sure if his name was there, he said some things, but he never asked a question. So what I would like to know is why do they install this valley when they say we're broke, but our school education is not in Rockland. And I believe it comes from your board, besides the money, how it's been, I'm not quite sure. But we're not getting anything, but the schools are not getting anything.
Schools are not part of the process.
Say that you vote yes, they say to people that make the decisions and decide not to give the education system the money that they need. Are we gonna get the same stuff that talk about giving? I'm confused. I don't know. And how?
I think you talk to New York. You're gonna say that's not the case. New York City has this. That is not the case. That's not the case in most of New York City.
All right, so we're going to, with all due respect, we're gonna try to keep the meeting going. So I'm going to, I know I see your hand up. We're gonna try to just do 4 more comments. So forgive me for looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The chief gets a little. First question is respectful because we have a village board meeting that needs to go, and this will be the first of many other meetings.
It doesn't feel like it. It wasn't it.
I will.
But y'all just get right behind, like, did I put you?
No. The reason I did is because I'm responsible for keeping the regularly scheduled village board meeting. And so that we're in compliance and respect people's time. Respectfully, I don't think I caught the entirety of your question, but I think a lot of it dealt with the school board and the lack of resources within the community. That a fair assessment of what you said?
No, but it started with questions they have to get willing to. He said a bunch of things, but he did not answer.
Sure. So what was the question? Let me see if I can address it.
She asked questions like, why are we having? Why is all like? Why are we doing? Why?
Sure. Okay. Let me see if I can answer.
He never answered the question, so I want to know myself.
Sure. Let me answer the question. Maybe I'll just give a factual timeline very quickly. Okay. So the issue of dissolution is something that's been happening within the Village of Valley for a long time. I think it was mentioned over the summer, folks had gathered a petition. Because the petition didn't get the required number of signatures, the petition ultimately failed. At that, why did the petition fail? I can't tell you what's in an individual's heart, but any citizen can go around the community, collect the required number of signatures. They could submit it to the clerk's office. And if there are the correct number of signatures, then within the timeline that was outlined, there must be a vote. Without any information, there must be a vote. So if you had 2,999 other folks that validly signed your petition, whether I wanted it or not, it would have to go to a vote of the entire community. Why 4 trustees of the 5 decide to vote for it? That's their prerogative, but it's pretty clear to me that those trustees said that they decided, and hopefully I'm getting it correct, they decided to vote because whether they want to or they don't want to, they wanted to give the community information. The board member, that's basically their answer. I'm on the board, I voted, I abstained. No. Very fair question, I abstained because I think the reason I came here is that if we invest in the village, the reasons I said without being redundant, that we can get this village operating the way it was 10 years ago. So hopefully, answer your question. Now, I'm available afterwards. Please put it into the website.
I did. I have my handbrake, which should have that down.
All right, let me be very clear. We are changing, I know we are going through rows, but because we have a regularly scheduled meeting and there's a lot of questions, we've got to move this along. All right, so that's what we do. So.
No, I just want to say that, thank the people that came. For coming, to do these numbers. And I want to thank the speaker that spoke. Because you told the truth now, you already got my attention is that you're not here to do anything, you're here to be a listener. That's all you're here for. Because everything that you mentioned has nothing to do with what helping this community. It's only talking about what's breaking. That's what it's all about. Because you ain't mentioned anything about the youth. You never mentioned anything about the housing. Never mentioned about the poor people on the street. You never mentioned about anything that's significant for this town. You keep mentioning that we're broke, that we don't have money. But we're not the ones building those big buildings in Rockland County. We're not the ones that's building those big stores in Rockland County. We're not the ones that's spending that money in Rockland County. Our parks look like trash. We have potholes everywhere. This is the accumulation of our own people moving out. My question to everybody is this. If you feel like that there's too much salt in your food, what do you do? Yeah, fix it, you gotta throw it out, right? So if Spring Valley, and I've been here for 58 years, Spring Valley been so smooth to me to keep here for 58 years. Where's your salt? I want to know where the salt came from. Because you're blaming us as a community. And a significant police officer that worked very hard, trust that. I live at 244, and there's a cop there every day, at least 3 times a day, to help the elderly people, to help other people in need. I don't think they need help. I think they need to have people help them to help a solution. Because the community is helping themselves because we're swimming. I think you need to find out where the soil is, get rid of it.
That's it.
Good evening. In my opinion, a lot of people think why this place is being considered to be this loud. It's very simple. It's quite obvious when you go outside, look around. Village is kept dirty, nasty, filthy. You have a stream that runs through Spring Valley. Through the park. The park is a dangerous place. The cops have a hell of a lot of work to do, just in the park alone. Keeping order, keeping people safe on Main Street and everywhere. The whole place is in dysfunction, right? And until certain people came here, I don't know how they got here, I don't know how they were elected. I didn't vote for it. You could come here and preach till you're blue in the face about all the stupidness that's happening here, and nothing is done. You don't believe me, every single one of you go up there and ask for all the complaints that were made and stamped. And you could read them
Day after day, it's the same thing. Nothing gets done here. And it's being done on purpose. People are brought here to keep the village dirty. Well, you can get the hell out of here.
Yes.
You bring dirty people, and when I say dirty, because they're clean and dirty, I don't care where you come from. And put them right next to you, and then you'd have to get up and tell me, please,
Yes.
what the hell are you getting for your tax money? What are you, they're paying all this taxes, what are you paying it for? It makes absolutely no sense. Right? And a couple of you in here are accused of being criminals. They should be in prison, you shouldn't even damn be here, because you're the ones screwing the whole village up. And I don't need to call anything, you know yourself. Right?
Okay.
I remember coming in here and I asked about police cars that need repair. We have the DPW that fell apart. You can't put these men and women in these dilapidated cars. What sense does that make? The rest of us don't have an outside company to protect us and show up at every damn incident that there is. So they need money for the protection. Is like one of the first things you gotta work on. Cleanliness. I came here and I spoke to them over and over till I'm blue. The place is nasty. I have videos, a lot of people in here. I have videos of cab drivers drunk. He's just running out in the streets. I mean, look at all the accidents. It's the only place in Rockland County I've ever seen this happen. I walk down the train station, it's filthy. So I'm wondering where the hell the tax money has gone. All these taxes, where have the money gone to? Because there's a difference. I don't know if you people don't listen to this. There's a big difference between community and village.
Yeah.
What is the community and what is the village? Big difference. You could go outside right now, you can see it. It's clear as day. I don't have to tell you. The waterway that I spoke of, a lot of the trash is heading right down that stream. I think this thing ends up in Westwood, New Jersey, if I'm not correct.
It goes
A
over
lot
to
of,
Hackensack.
it goes to Hackensack. A lot of water and debris, cups, everything heading right down that stream into other towns. Are you gonna sit and wait until you get sued? Because that's the other problem. All these lawsuits that the village is in. All our tax money is paying off lawyers. It makes absolutely no sense. It's the only place that does it. And this is the dirtiest, nastiest village on our state village in all of Rockland County. And I'm sorry to say that, but
We have to wrap up.
That's why I said the front. I think that's how.
We have to.
What's the timeline? What's the timeline for the study to be released? So we're talking the study now. What are we looking at?
So we'll probably be looking at taking, the remainder of this year to collect data, work on the study, do all the analyses that are necessary to talk.
Yeah, it's not process.
So we'll probably be looking in early 2027 would be.
February, March, April, I guess the other question I have is, that whole kind of like, let's say, alternatives such as maybe, I don't know, downtown. Maybe more in the village, so there's something maybe less in the village, right? I mean, to look at the map of the village, right? It's sort of, village was designed with a lot of public housing, right? To look at it, the village has all sorts of cutouts in and out, with having these islands in the middle, right? Kind of close to islands. Is there a possibility of making that, right? Because you have residents and I think we have people want their services and want their city, putting village with obviously efficient leadership. Is there a possibility of making some residents serve better without a village, some people serve better with a village? That can be considered.
That's not part of a distribution plan. I'm sure the board would want to look at this incorporation or reorganization in different ways. That can be it. But it's not part of this.
I heard a lot of things that, a lot of people that spoke that I agree with. I just wanted to say that I don't think this is appropriate for the village board members to speak here, because it should be for the public. Because they can have a meeting with Mr. Fitzgerald. I forgot the last name.
works.
maybe they could have a meeting with you, they could speak to you by, email, whatever, but this should have been just for the residents. Okay, I think I know this answer, it's in the word, but I'm asking the question. Has there been an impact evaluation conducted?
That's the entire process.
So you don't have, right now, you're just getting information.
We just started 2 weeks.
You don't know what's gonna happen
Not yet.
to the police station, to the police, to our police officer. And what I want to hear from is from the town, whoever's gonna take over, we should hear from them, they should be here. Answering all questions, because I wanna know what's the impact, what is the impact on our police?
That's a very fair question. And remember, at the beginning of the meeting, I said, we as Laberge Group, I individually always have this particular public information meeting at the beginning of the process. So you all know what the process is, what we're gonna be looking at. I preface it with, I don't have any answers yet. We're starting the process. We'll be coming back a few times with answers and sharing that with the public. And there's a difference between public information. Meetings and public hearings. Public information means where I can share with you what we've learned. A public hearing is where you can come and tell me that I'm wrong.
Thank you for the lesson, but, what you should have is the impact, okay, I'm saying. Impact, because I want to talk to the people around for Parktown, the answer also, what is the response time for a police officer when you call? Because I know that they're pretty good at, responding, you call, you see them. Is town of Ramapo or Parktown gonna be able to respond?
No,
I know. I didn't answer that question, no.
And that will be, the statistics will be in the plan also.
It's very, in with my brain, because I keep hearing you say then that it's up to the town, and then it's up to the residents. I don't know who this up to, but we really need to sit on this, look at it, find the solutions, find the answers, and not make people feel like, oh my God, I'm gonna have no police officers, I'm gonna be in trouble, who am I gonna call? When I call 911, who's gonna show up? And how long will it take to show up? Okay? Yeah, that's right. And I wanna say, we should not have any dissolution. We should not. We should think like regular people, find a solution. If we need money, resolve that problem. But don't say, if your house is dirty, you don't say, oh, I'm just gonna break it down, I'm gonna leave it. You're gonna clean it. So clean it up. And we need our resources untouched.
So, Mayor, I think we're back in time now.
They need to start bringing it up. I have two questions. I want to know, if they're true that was rejected or denied because of fraudulent.
Yeah.
That was committed or failed because of lack of valid.
Yeah. Black and that was.
Well, I know.
My next question is, talk about ordinance study. Does that money determine? Does the study determine if that money that's coming into the village is going to be properly, or is it missing? Is it going to be missing, or disappropriated, or whatever,
That money, the citizen empowerment tax credit $1 million. That will go to the town of Ramapo and the town of Clarkston. Remember, if you dissolve, you are no longer a village government. So it goes to Ramapo and it goes to Clarkston. And it goes to lower the tax by law.
I'll be really brief. One for the employees and one for the public. I see a bunch of retired faces here, police officers, village employees have worked in this village for years. And retired in good faith.
Under statutes, it's protecting them and their benefits, no matter what happens here moving forward.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah.
So no, I appreciate the clapping. I haven't had any today. So yes, chief. All the retiree health plans are still in effect. The towns will not be adjudicated. They'll be the ones administering them. The fees, the cost for the retiree health care will stay in until it's no longer needed. In other words, they no longer cost. Or their plan is taken up by insurance, Medicare, or however they go forward. So your benefit package as a retiree still with that. It'll just be administered by the town. Now, the cost will still be borne by the village residents or the former village residents. So again, that's part of the legacy cost. So when we look at this, we have to figure out what is the cost today to carry that forward. And on your budget line, so we come up with a fiscal analysis. We look at what is your village tax today and town tax. And then we look at what is the new town tax tomorrow going to be. The village tax part we got, but your legacy will be there. So all the outstanding liabilities will be there as a cost line. Any special districts, we also added water, sewer, lighting, if it's a snow district, drainage district, every district in town say they're going to have will show up in the chart. Bottom of the chart will be the resultant tax impact for village residents and resultant tax impact on town.
Very good, thank you. Lastly, you'll find out, you just started to study the village, you'll find out that the village's strength over the years is going to be the diversity, the uniqueness, the complexity of the village of Spring Valley. Has New York ever seen a jurisdiction dissolve the complexities of Spring Valley? No.
No. We've done, Carl, you can come from wrong, we have 24 of these. This is the largest, most diverse, most intact governmental entity as far as service provision goes. Any government even shows dissolve of the largest village before was Nasty Beach, 15,000 people, 6 years to village, almost no employees. The largest outside that service name in Seneca Falls, they have a police department. But in most cases, when you have a police department, the village should not be dissolved. But it's
Especially if the county don't have.
if
Give
they
us
have-
our $93,000 back.
if the towns now, South Nyack was a different story. They had more reasons why they chose to dissolve. And ours comes to go to those services. Our town get their CDPC that goes to the process. As far as staff transition, some officers went over, some officers with other locations. Some staff members offer opportunities, they didn't want to go to town, and others we provide opportunities to transition over.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. We look forward to giving you the information to show how unique, strong, and diverse Spring Valley is. Thank you.
I want to thank everyone for coming out tonight. This is only going to be the first of several opportunities to get together. I also want to note that since we've been here, we've already had 25 new people signing up to get information. So again, I want to guide you to the website, springvalleydissolution.com. Sign up to get information on it. Thank you.
Yeah.